Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Before the Green. I'm sure you missed us all last week, but due to circumstances beyond our control, we did not have an episode. And this week, we are also down about 2/3 of our crew. So it's just Evan and I. Just
Don't
Evan
take
and
this
I
wrong.
tonight. So.
Don't take this wrong. I feel like Donnie is not 2/3 of this group.
I said about 2/3 of the crew.
Yeah, but there's no way he is.
Okay, whatever. What's up, Pookie?
Pookie? Aw. Not a whole lot, man. Getting into the rhythm of things. Enjoyed Talladega yesterday. I see I've got like
Oh,
an
there was a
orb.
race yesterday? Wow.
Well, there was a 4-wide train for a while,
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but
you know.
yeah.
It was a decent race, actually, from an entertainment perspective.
So we're just going to jump right into it, or
I mean,
I'm not going to talk about a week, how we're all recovered from being sick.
I wasn't sick. You guys
No.
were sick.
Well, then why didn't you do a podcast? So what, you just
To
letting
do
all
it
our listeners
yourself,
down?
it's just not
I
as
see.
fun. Actually, so speaking of NASCAR or whatever, obviously, since
That's
this is
good.
what this is what we talk
I'm
about.
so glad we're going to talk about that.
I was talking with a friend yesterday, and anyway, she asked what I've been up to, so I was showing her.
She.
Yeah,
Do
high school
tell.
friend. So I was showing her my new die-cast holders that I've been printing with my 3D printer that I bought. So anyway, so I send her a picture, and she goes, I love the fact that in the background I can see the TV, and it's clearly a race that's on. And I said, it's a Sunday afternoon. What else am I going to do? I do the same thing every week. But, yeah. So,
And that's the sad life of Evan Locke. But,
what
hey.
did you do yesterday? Did you not sit in the house and watch the race?
Well, I went to church first, and then
Well, I did too.
I watched the race. But
I did that as well.
I mean, that's good. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
I just,
All right, let's talk about it then.
No, I mean, I want to get something straight. Anytime that we hang out in person, because we do live, a whole province apart, I go to your place and you sit on the couch and go, we should do something. But you never pitch an idea of what we should do. Or when you come here, you'll sit on my couch and say, we should do something. But you never pitch an idea of what
Well,
we
it's not
should
like
do.
we can go golfing or fishing or play basketball or something.
Why not? I would do those things.
Cause that means going outside, and you don't like doing that. On your
I have no
days
issue
off.
going outside. I used to play volleyball every week.
Used to.
Yeah, well, I mean, start talking to people I shouldn't talk to.
Don't.
Things have
Wow, that's a whole nother. Okay, so
Things have to
23-11.
shut down. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk news of the week, I guess, before we go to the race.
Yeah,
That makes
let's
sense.
talk about news. I'm sure everyone has heard 2311 and Front Row Motorsports have sued NASCAR for antitrust infringements.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal. I don't know a whole lot about lawsuits, but
Well,
everyone's
they're generally
talking about
not
it.
good.
Well, generally, yeah.
So, I consider NASCAR to be a petty organization. And when I say that, I don't mean like the petties won 10 championships and therefore they are awesome at.
We've used that joke a few times, but yeah.
Yeah, but why stop, right?
True.
So I consider them to be quite petty. If they don't like the way you act, they can very quickly make your life more difficult from a racing perspective. Let's put it that way, okay?
Jeremy Mayfield will testify.
Yeah. Actually, I saw something on Twitter where he said he would be a witness or something like that. He said if you need me, here's my number or something.
That's awesome.
So here's who I see it hurting in a way. I think this effectively ends Denny Hamlin's pursuit of a championship. I just don't see him getting away with it. Everything is going to have to be completely above board for him to win a championship. And I don't think that you can roll into Phoenix with a car that's completely within the rules and win the race, right? So I just don't see that happening. I think it also hurts obviously the chances of anyone else doing particularly well either from those organizations. But I also think 2311's the only organization that could really do this and have any weight to it. Don't get me wrong. Kudos to Front Row Motorsports for stepping up and joining in on the lawsuit if they feel that they need to. But I think without 2311, it doesn't matter.
Let's be honest, it's Michael Jordan.
Right. Yeah, you think about how this looks, okay? So here's how the scenario goes real bad for NASCAR. So if right now they're seeking a temporary, I forget what the word actually is, but anyway, injunction.
They want to be able to keep, that's it.
Right. They want to be able to have their charters for next year while this suit goes on, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say that the judge does not grant that. What's NASCAR going to do? Pull the charter from, you think about perspective on this, okay? So we have spent probably 10 or 15 years now trying to court a more diverse audience, okay? Now, I'm going to list some things, and I'm not saying whether they are good or bad or otherwise. I'm just listing facts of what we have done to attract these audiences. So we have created a Drive for Diversity program, right, where we look for drivers who perhaps aren't white males of the USA necessarily.
Wait, I'm not supposed to jump in. Okay.
No, but I mean, you got Bubba Wallace, you've got Rajah Caruth now, you have Haley Deegan, we have all these names that have come into the sport. Suarez, since that program's inception, not necessarily through the program, but because of that program's inception. Okay, we now have Pitbull as a team owner in our sport. We have 2 black owners in our sport. 2 that I can think of: Brad Doherty from JTG Doherty, and of course Michael Jordan. We now have an Asian driver, a Mexican driver, and a black driver in our sport. So if the judge doesn't grant this temporary injunction, I think NASCAR still can't necessarily pull that charter, because how bad does it look to this audience that you have attempted to reach? Even you look at it from a Clash perspective. We took the Clash to LA, and that was the purpose as to why we want to reach that audience. We're going to Mexico. That's the reason why, because we want to reach that audience. We got rid of the Confederate flag because we felt that would hinder that audience, which is probably a valid statement. And then what are you going to do? Go pull the charter from the one black driver that you have in the field, who also races for, hands down, the most popular black owner in our sport and the most influential figure in our sport? Nobody wins in that situation. I don't see any way that NASCAR can come out of this looking good if they actually pull those charters. Now, Front Row, I don't think anyone would really care, other than the fact that if you got to pull one, you got to pull the other. I don't see a way it goes well. Do you?
Not really. I mean, I think Michael Jordan, Denny know that they're the only team who actually can go after NASCAR and probably get away with it. I feel like they probably wanted other guys to jump on board, but no one is doing that because they're all scared and don't want to lose what they have. But
they also signed the document that says they can't join in any antitrust.
True.
You know what I mean? Which, for the record, is probably in violation of antitrust laws.
There's probably something violating there. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That seems pretty heavy-handed to me.
And the fact they got the document at 6:30 in the evening with a 12 a.m. deadline was pretty ridiculous too. But,
yeah.
Hey.
Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
And it was supposedly a significant document. You think about how much legal speak would be in that document. Everyone knows you have lawyers look over a document and things like that. Especially, we're talking millions of dollars worth of charters here. It's foolish to me.
Yep. Sounds like the liberal government to me.
But then, but let's look at it from this perspective too. Okay, if they do that, if they do take those charters, then you now have, if they've already bought Stewart-Haas's charters, right? That's 2 of them, plus the 2 for front row that they already have, plus the 2 for 2311. So now NASCAR has 6 charters sitting there with nobody in them. Well, you've created this program so that owners in the sport have something of value to sell. Well, if you've got 6 sitting there that nobody owns and you can give away or sell or whatever you want at whatever price you determine, well, all of a sudden the market has tanked for these. Like, it's a real mess, and I think 2311 has NASCAR probably right where they want them. And
Yep.
I think it very well is going to change the face of the sport from a business perspective.
I agree.
Want to go to non-news related stuff and talk about the race?
Sure, let's talk about the race. Nothing really happened, but
Well, I mean, it was an entertaining race. Ricky Stenhouse gets the win, obviously, at Talladega, his 6th career victory, all of them, I believe, on super speedways. No
Yep.
playoff driver has won in this round, so that's kind of big news. That's not common, particularly.
no.
What did you think of the race overall?
I liked the race, but I think I'm looking at it as a Kyle Larson fan, and he finished 4th, like the first top 5 and like the second top 5 he's ever had at Talladega. So I mean, like, he drove out of his mind, and I think that's why I liked it. Just watching him, especially the first stage, man, those moves he was making, he was like down 20th and somehow got up to, I think, 3rd in the stage or 4th.
Yeah, he was
like
up there
it
pretty
was.
far.
It was a wild ride. Like, I was just shaking by the end of that stage. So, I mean, for me, it was pretty intense, but I don't know, like, other guys who don't really have a favorite driver, if their driver was at the back or something, whether they enjoyed it. Like, yeah, there was four wide a lot of the time, but a lot of guys are saying they were also 2 seconds off the pace just driving around at that point. So the 4 wide wasn't quite as entertaining as it looked, I guess. So
All for show.
all
No
for show,
go.
kind of. They were just like, there was not a whole lot of passing, which, I mean, it's a speedway, I guess, but I don't know. I've just heard the drivers complain that they used to be able to pass and like make moves and stuff, but those have been all pretty much taken away. It all relies on your strategy and your pit stops and saving fuel and stuff. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I did enjoy the race, but again, I won the point of our competition. My driver did well, so I mean, like, if the shoe was on the other foot,
Oh,
if
you mean the
Kyle
driver
Larson
you
would
root
wreck
for?
too.
I thought you meant the
Yeah,
driver you
exactly.
picked. I'm like, no, he didn't. None of them did.
No, he wrecked, but I still got the point with him. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I know a lot of people had a lot of problems with it.
I think the 4 wide thing, I think, for me, highlighted probably the biggest issue with super speedway racing right now, other than the fuel mileage aspect, which is another whole discussion. I don't know how you fix that, so I won't say anything about that too much. But obviously, if you can drive 4 wide for 20, 25 laps side by side, and everybody handles well enough that nobody gets loose or walks up the track or gets tight or anything of that nature, then the car's handled too good and are too easy to drive. Like, don't get me wrong. I realize it's not an easy thing to do, right? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying they should be harder if that's as hard as it is. Right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the top level of stock car racing, and I think it should look like it is. You know what
But
I mean?
can you even consider them stock cars anymore? Because this car, like Kyle Larson drove Indy this year, he said there wasn't a whole lot of difference between the cars, how they drove, just the shape
yeah.
of them, basically. Like,
I
it's
definitely don't consider them a stock car, but
no.
it still falls under the stock car racing category, right? Like, which is quite generally used nowadays.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you know, I do think overall it was an entertaining race. Like, I didn't feel like I was ever bored or
No, second stage was a little bit of just driving around, but
yeah. But as a Bowman
It was-
fan, I was just happy to see him up near the front of the.
exactly.
Like,
See,
he
that's
led
where we're
laps
coming
again
from,
today.
so-
I mean, I'm feeling good, right?
yeah,
you know,
exactly. So
I think
it's hard
everyone
to-
at Hendrick has to feel pretty good right now, except for maybe Chase fans, because he's not in great position. But we're also going to a road course, so he'll probably be
yeah,
okay.
he's not in bad position considering where everybody else is at.
What did you make of that? Going back to the first stage, what did you make of that Suarez situation Obviously, he had the penalty there. He had to do a pass through after starting at the back of the field.
They should. NASCAR needs to look at that and take Daniel Suarez and put him back in ARCA. That was absolutely ridiculous.
I think we need to have a NASCAR equivalent of the Darwin Award and give it to the guy who makes the worst mistake in the race.
Man, like that was just like it looked like he was driving to Mexico or something. Like just not gonna turn here. Like
what blows my mind is like chances are he was called clear, right? Like I assume someone said he was clear, or
he was clear, but he was going about 40 miles slower than everybody else, so it wasn't clear for long.
No, but like he should have made a more aggressive move to get into there instead of waiting until the car was going by him to move up. Like
it was just stay at the bottom of the track. Stop trying to blend in the front. Like he would have kept up with the draft. At the very least, the very first stage, he would have been on the lead lap again. Like it was just a stupid move. Like
I will say this too, that all started in my opinion with his teammate 3 years ago. Used to be nobody moved off the bottom, and then I believe it was one of the front row cars and Ross Chastain were about to get lapped, and instead of staying in a line, Ross moves high and makes it so like all these cars have to move like snake around them. And like that's where that all started. That's the first time I remember ever seeing that, and blows my mind to this day. Like such a ridiculous thing. And
worked one time probably, and
no, he caused a wreck there too.
Oh, he got his lap. It doesn't
back.
work. So
no, and I mean, like you say, if you're the only car a lap down, just stay. Just
right. Like there was nothing to gain from that situation, and like. He wrecks himself, and I don't think he was back in the lead lap the entire race. Like I think he was.
Yeah, he probably wasn't. I don't know for sure. He might have got back on there, but it ended poorly for him and a bunch of other guys in the end. Anyway,
I'll be glad to see him gone after this round, so out of the playoffs.
I was gonna say I haven't heard that he's leaving. So
well, no, but he's went one round too far, in my opinion, already. So
big Suarez fan?
Not a big Suarez fan. But hey,
are you a fan of NASCAR consistency?
Oh, I just love NASCAR's consistency. Consistently bad, making wrong calls.
So, do you want to talk about the towing thing?
Let's talk about the towing thing. You take us away from there. I'll just shake my head the entire time.
Okay, so going back to Watkins Glen is when this all started. This whole mess. When Ryan Blaney had a very, very minor impact and lost his steering. NASCAR towed him back to the garage. They were very upset because they felt that they should have had a chance to go to the pits, fix any issues, and, on the damaged vehicle policy clock or whatever, damaged clock, which I think is 7 minutes in the playoffs, which is a significant amount of time for guys that work like they do.
Yeah.
So NASCAR said, nope, if you can't move and you need to be towed back to the garage, that's your race. That's how it's been. Then I think was it last week that it happened to Josh Berry?
I believe so.
He spun, touched the wall, had flat tires, and needed towed back. So they towed him to the garage and told him his race was done over flat tires. Okay, let's be clear. Said, your race is done. Now, he's not in the playoffs, but Ryan Blaney was. And then this week...
No. You forgot. I think it was after Kansas. They were like, yes, that's the rule right now. That's what we're going to do. But we're going to review it in the offseason to see if we're going to make any changes.
Oh, did they say they were going to review? I didn't catch
Supposedly, that's what I've heard. Okay. That they've actually said, hey, we're going to review this rule in the offseason. But until then, that's the rule, and we're going to stick with it.
Okay.
Fast forward to Talladega.
And truthfully, I don't have an issue with that. I think if this is the rule, you stay with it. Yeah, 100%. Yep. But then this week at Talladega, there was two playoff drivers, Chase Elliott and Chase Briscoe, both involved in that big accident with like 5 or 6 to go, whatever it was, where it went red flag. NASCAR
there was another one too, Harrison Burton as well.
Was he the third car?
Harrison Burton was the third car.
Okay. I knew there was someone else, but I couldn't think of who it was.
Yeah.
So these are the two currently active playoff drivers that were able to be towed. They towed them to the pits and then gave them time to address the situation and repair if needed. And if they could repair it within that time, they could go back on track. And apparently, I believe it was Jeff Burton said on the broadcast this was something they changed during this week in reference to Talladega. I have an issue with that.
I have a huge issue with that.
Because, so, let's look at this from Ryan Blaney's perspective, okay? You put him in a huge disadvantage in round one, right? Mm-hmm. With the whole situation at Watkins Glen. Put him in a huge disadvantage. Then you go to Talladega, and you take two drivers that, by that rule, should have been removed from the race, right? Harrison Burton's a non-factor in this part of the conversation.
Doesn't really matter, but yeah.
But Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, you give them a huge advantage because they're allowed to continue when everyone else would not have been. You know, you look at like Joey Logano wasn't able to continue from that wreck. Austin Cindric wasn't able to continue from that wreck. Who else was in that wreck that was a playoff driver?
Oh man, there was like 28 cars involved, so there was a lot of them.
Like, pretty much all of them, I guess. Yeah.
Pretty much all the playoff drivers. Yeah.
Yeah, you give them a huge advantage. You know, and
it wasn't as if Chase Elliott just had 4 flat tires like Josh Berry. His car was demolished. Like
he hit the wall hard.
They showed him in the broadcast like putting around trying to get up to speed, and he couldn't. Like it was just nuts. But
yeah, and I mean,
anyways,
I will say I think the broadcast made it look like he couldn't get up to speed, but he was actually waiting to go to the back of the line. He came out after they crossed.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. But either way, his car was still way worse than 4 tires. Like it was demolished. Like,
and like if he gets in by 1 point, right? I guarantee you he gained a point by finishing one more lap because, like, if Suarez was on the lead lap or someone like that, like, it's a really stupid thing that, like, when it comes to competition rules, in my opinion, there should be no change during the regular season or the playoffs.
Nope.
I would be a little bit okay if they changed something between the regular season and the playoffs, theoretically, but I don't even like that. But once the regular season champion is determined and everyone has reset, I could maybe make a case for that. But competition rules that don't affect safety should absolutely not be changed during the regular season. The only reason anything should change during the season is for safety purposes. Other than that, 100%. What are we doing?
And
we know the rules at the start of the season.
They didn't change the rule. Like, they didn't change the rule before the race. This was an in-race decision that they were going to let Chase Elliott and Chase Briscoe get back on track.
I believe that is the case. And
that's
I'm sure they're not going to say that, but I believe that's the case.
They did. No. What's his name there? Elliott Sadler?
Elton Sawyer?
Is that... Well, Elton Sawyer. Sorry, I don't know where I got Elliott Sadler from. But anyways, close.
Same initials.
They did an interview, and he basically said, well, we don't ever want any good cars not able to race, and like all this, and like we're going to look at the rule in the off season, but this is a decision we made for tonight, basically.
For tonight?
Like, well, I don't know if those are the words, but basically it's like this was a split second decision during the race that the race director made the call to let them supposedly continue.
You can't say it's a split second decision under a red flag.
Again, I don't know that he didn't say that, but these are my words. I'm just saying, like, this was their decision.
I'm gonna have to look this quote up.
Let these guys
at some point.
Well, it's an interview, like.
But that is unacceptable.
I know, 100%.
As a fan sitting at home, I should be able to know what's going to transpire.
Exactly.
I'm not saying every fan out there knows all the rules. I'm not saying that. But if I know the rule, I should be able to know the rule. I shouldn't have to be like, I wonder what the rule is this week or tonight or like, what a dumb idea to say such a stupid thing.
Yeah.
And this, like, I have said this all season long. Well, at least since Richmond, when we had the issue with Austin Dillon. If you're not going to make a clear rule, then don't make a rule. But if you're going to make a rule, don't be switching back and forth either. Like,
exactly. It just doesn't matter. More and more ridiculous. Doesn't matter if Chase Elliott is in the wreck or not. Like, you got to be consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's so stupid.
Don't worry about all the Chase sexuals.
I'm still surprised they suspended him last year.
Yeah.
You know. But And then you told me about that other thing that happened too.
Oh yeah, it wasn't the only screwed up thing that NASCAR did. So during the red flag, they were cleaning the track, and when they were done cleaning the track, they decided to obviously they go back to yellow with these red flag guys in their pits waiting to work on the cars because you can't work on your cars under red.
You can inspect but not work.
Inspect, but you can't work. But so, anyways, they throw the yellow flag to get the race started again, like to get the cars going, and the pace car doesn't move. So here, all these guys in the pits are now allowed to work on their cars, but all the cars that weren't wrecked were still behind the pace car that was just sitting there. And from what I heard, it was a good minute or two. I don't know. They didn't really mention on the broadcast, I don't think. So basically, the guys in the pits had a 2-minute head start on the guys that were still just waiting for the pace car to go because supposedly they were still cleaning the wreck up in turn 3 that they didn't notice the tower or whoever the race official was. So they just held them there for a few minutes instead of rethrowing the red because they didn't want to interrupt the flow of the race.
But the flow of the race has been interrupted when the red flag comes out. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Yet when a yellow flag comes out, like,
and throwing the yellow and letting the guys in the pits work on the cars is also interrupting the flow of the race, in my opinion, because it's just, yeah.
And I mean,
to me, that's almost a bigger one than the towing situation. Like,
oh yeah, but in my opinion, it all comes back to unfair advantage, right? Like, that's really what it comes down to. Like, you think about. I know Bowman was in for repairs. I don't know what he required.
Bowman was probably going to go a lap down if pace car would have got moving. Like,
and don't get me wrong, I would have been bummed about it, but that's the rule. I'm okay with it. Chase Elliott was in there. Chase Briscoe, obviously. Like, that's 3 guys that by rights shouldn't have been allowed to work on their cars.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Bowman finished 16th, I think.
17th or 16th.
17th. I believe Jeff Gluck, who writes for The Athletic, said that if he would have went a lap down, he would have finished no better than 23rd. So there's like 6 points there. That, like, that's huge.
He's, I think, 25 to the good. I feel way better about 25 than I would about 19.
I know, it's just wild, man.
You know what I mean? Like 2 stage wins, and all of a sudden he's below the bubble, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's at least good until the end of the stage 1 and 2 for being eliminated. You know, like it's absolutely absurd. And I say that as someone whose driver benefited. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. Like it was just bad calls.
Yeah.
And another thing.
And people say that Hendrick is well liked by NASCAR, but like this is why they say that.
Yeah.
They didn't do it for Chase Briscoe.
Another thing that Jeff Gluck mentioned, which I didn't know this rule, but supposedly it is, Ricky Stenhouse, during that crash, Brad Kay came up and, no, Austin Cindric might have came up and doored him there. Anyways, he had a big wheel mark on the side of his car.
Had a hole.
Anyways, if you zoom, a hole, exactly. So if you zoom into that hole, there's door foam that is missing from that car. And supposedly there's a rule that you are not supposed to be allowed to drive that car if you have missing door foam from your vehicle.
That makes total sense. That's a safety thing.
So, and that's something that NASCAR also came back and just said, oh, well, we missed that one. We didn't notice it. That was their excuse for that. Which maybe they did that till there was a lot going on, but still, like his car, like it was just, yeah.
Sure. Like I can see how you missed that, but when the cars are sitting there under a red flag and not moving,
you should be able to notice that.
Yeah, we've seen, and not only that, they zoomed in on it on the broadcast, right?
Yes.
I think the reality is I think NASCAR has gotten too comfortable with being safe. Like, that's the reason why Ryan Blaney was allowed to win the All-Star race with his window net unattached, right? Like, because they were comfortable with letting it go. They knew about it. They can say they didn't, but, like, everyone at home knew about it, so why wouldn't you? That's why they were comfortable letting that happen last night. You know, I think NASCAR's, like, 23 years with no death. Don't get me wrong, we've had injuries, but no major death. And this car, after the first season, has proven to be very, very safe. And I think NASCAR is just a little too comfortable with the safety of the car. And I think that's going to be a dangerous thing going forward. But yeah, I mean, if Ricky's out there racing without his door foam, then his win should be taken away. Not because he's doing anything wrong, right? But as they always say on DBC, you need to protect these guys from themselves, right? If they're not told to pull in, they're gonna race.
Oh yeah,
and
100%.
if you allow the wind to stand, why aren't they going to try it again? Right?
Yeah. But
and
I don't know if you can take the win away in that situation, because if he's not told, then
why can't you?
Like you said, they're not. Well,
it's
I mean,
an illegal car.
I know, but it wasn't really his fault. It was illegal. Like, it would still pass inspection at the end because it wasn't tampered with. Mm-hmm. Yes and no, I guess.
No, like I get it. I don't. Like, I theoretically don't want that win taken away from Ricky, but if you don't, then everyone's going to do it every time. Like, if that opportunity happens again, you think the teams aren't going to go, Ricky got away with it, let's risk it.
But that's what I mean, though. It's on NASCAR. I don't think it's on the teams to police that situation. I think it's on NASCAR to be like, hey, you're in the pits because you have no door foam. Like,
right, but if NASCAR does that now, and takes that away and says, no, you had an illegal car, you weren't allowed to be on the track, regardless of the fact that it was them who missed it, then next time when a team goes, okay, we're missing door foam, we can't win this race, or we can't whatever, we'll just have to pull off the track, see if we can fix it, patch it, whatever, right? Like, even the fact that the door foam was exposed is probably not great, but maybe next time they pull the car down the track and at least seal it or something.
Who better would it be to say, hey, Ricky, you got to get in pit road. You're not, like, you got to repair your car. Like, it's Ricky Stenhouse. Like, yes, I know there's some Ricky Stenhouse fans, I'm sure, but, like, it's not like it's Chase Elliott. They're telling, like, it's not a playoff driver, you know? No. It's not like, anyways.
And it's like, remember when I said earlier, safety rules can be changed, and like if it comes for safety's sake, it's okay to change it. That's an okay time to make that call.
Yeah.
No one's going to be disappointed about potentially keeping a driver safe from harm, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, I didn't realize that. I'm not a fan of that at all.
Yeah, no, it was, again,
I don't think we
know
need to
what
mess
the
with
rule
driver
is,
safety.
But speaking of safety, one guy was pretty safe and lucky throughout that entire thing, Denny Hamlin.
Denny.
Like, oh my goodness. Of all guys I wanted to see below the cut line this week, that would have been number one, but he was so slow he lucked out and missed the entire wreck.
A lot of people are saying he was so slow because he got caught up in that Ryan Blaney wreck at the end of the
That's what he said, yeah. He said he didn't have it. They had to change his tires, and that's why he was so slow coming out of the pits, and he said he just couldn't keep up. Like, his car was just pretty much done. So.
Which, like, is fine. But at the same point, like, it made my night. At the very beginning of the race, he goes to make a move, and they're all just like, meh. You can go to the back. And I mean, to be fair, you kind of made it seem like that's where you wanted to be 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I mean, you might as well. But he clearly looked like he wanted to actually race a little bit this week, which is good.
Yep.
Probably should have done that before the lawsuit, but anyway.
Hey,
who am I to judge?
But yeah, it looks like he's gonna lock himself into the round of 8, or unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, well,
like Sonoma.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Speaking of, that's where he blew up, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like the first lap or the second lap.
Speaking of the round of 8, William Byron is currently the only guy locked in, and nobody's locked in on wins. He's locked in on points.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Can you imagine going to a cutoff race and nobody locked in except for one guy?
I mean, yeah. Seabell and Larson are pretty much locked in, but...
Yeah, there's definitely some guys that are higher in points.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the list. I know Bowman's like 25 or 26 to the good. He's the one I care about the
Denny's
most,
30. I think it's Seabell, Larson, Denny, and then like...
Oh, Denny's ahead of Bowman now?
Yeah. Denny's got 30 points to the good. Yeah.
Early in the race, they kept showing the playoff points, and I was like, Bowman's going to look all right if this continues, but it didn't pan out.
Another guy who got lucky was Blaney. That big wreck, like that saved him some points too.
Saved him a lot of points.
A lot of points.
Yeah, he must still be about 25 or 26 up there too. I think he's still above Bowman.
I think he might be ahead of Bowman too. To be honest,
I think Bowman's like 6th,
something like that.
And then I know
Elliott and Reddick
Elliott?
are below.
Yeah, they're like 13 and 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess anyway. I know Logano's like 14 points out, so whoever's ahead of him is that much on the good. But
yeah.
Speaking of Logano, him, Cindric, Briscoe, and Suarez are below the cut line. Do you see any one of them making their way above it?
Man, I don't think so. Unless one of them can pull out a win, I don't.
Yeah.
I know Cindric's good in road courses, I think, and Briscoe too. I don't
Yeah, Logano's got one road course win, but it's a awful long career for only one.
I don't see any of them being able to make that jump.
I think if they do, it'll be because someone falters ahead of them, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think they make up the points naturally.
Yeah, like Reddick or Elliott's gonna have to wreck, I think, for Joey to get back in it.
Yeah,
because I don't think he can outdrive those. Like, I mean, it's Elliott and Reddick at a road course. Like, I mean,
yeah, but it's also Reddick and a Toyota.
Well, also that. Yeah, they've been real impressive this year.
Don't get Donnie too
That's
upset.
The real reason why Donnie's not in the podcast right now.
He's on a sabbatical.
Yeah.
Till
who's going to show up first? Is Toyota going to show up first or Donnie? We're not sure.
Best part is, you remember like halfway through the regular season, we were talking about Ford and how they had turned it on the last couple of weeks and how we thought they were going to look good. And he's like, no, I think Toyota's early on the stretch. Okay. That didn't pan out, Don.
Haven't seen, I mean, like, yes, Christopher Bell is pretty much locked in, but he hasn't been super impressive. Like, he's been good finishes, I guess. Him and William Byron just kind of fly under the radar, but
yeah, actually, Bell's been super consistent.
Yeah, but
I feel like Byron's getting back to the front.
I haven't seen one race yet in the playoffs where I was like, oh, Christopher Bell's going to win this. Like,
yeah,
he's not been at the front at all. So, anyways, we'll see.
That might change this week.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Who above the cut line do you think is in danger of falling out?
I think Reddick, really, to be honest.
I think so too. I think if anyone's going to fall out.
He has not been any, like, he's disappeared since the regular season.
I mean, don't get me wrong, someone could get wrecked and fall out that way, but as far as like not having the speed, I think he's the guy that you got.
Yeah, I think so too.
And let me rephrase that. I think that's the team that I don't think it's a Reddick issue at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's lots fast as a driver. It's just, yeah.
But if it wasn't for Denny getting those extra points, if he'd only have 15 points of good, I'd put him in that category too, because I don't think he's been driving great as well.
What's crazy to me is, like, for the first time ever, I think I look at the standings and go, there's actually a very real chance that our Final Four is going to be one team. Like,
I could see that.
Like,
it could be Hendrick.
Yeah, like, I don't.
That's the only I mean,
I don't think it's going to happen.
There's I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a possibility it could.
It's not like you're like, oh no, one guy is performing way below everybody else. And if you do, I think right now that's probably Chase Elliott. Like, everyone else seems to be performing better.
Yep.
You know, which I'm okay with.
And with the tracks coming up, I don't see them like there's a real shot. Like, don't think it's going to happen because.
Like, you think about it, okay? Like, even if one guy falters, they go to Martinsville for the cutoff race. Like, I think if you're one of those other teams, you've got to be looking at Vegas and Homestead as like, okay, we've got to get the win here.
Yep.
But,
and look who runs good at Vegas, like
Larson.
But yeah, anyways, we're Hendrick fans, so of course we're going to say that.
What's crazy to me is I'm way more of a Bowman fan than a Hendrick fan at this point in my life, but we have no caution break segment this week. We were going to do trivia, but it really takes the competitive element out of it when you've only got one guy to answer.
So, because I'm the only one who showed up, I win by default, so that makes me 7-0 against Donnie as well as Evan. So,
do I have 7 questions?
Let the record show that.
Hang on, we got to make sure I have 7 questions here.
It doesn't matter. I'm taking 7-0. There we go. See? Sorry, Donnie.
Okay, let's go to Before the Green and picks.
I thought we did Before the Green. Oh,
we
after
did
the checkers, you did. Oh, see, I'm all mixed up.
Well, no,
Silly me.
Listen, it's because our format and our name really kind of sounds backwards. But last week, we were at Talladega. Our picks are as follows. Donnie picked Ryan Blaney, who, to be fair, would have been everyone's natural pick. He finished 39th. I continued the Penske group with Joey Logano. He finished 33rd. What? What's that?
Blaney, thanks to Bowman.
Oh, yeah. And Korey finished off the Penske grouping with Austin Cindric, who got him the point with a blazing fast 32nd place finish. So we are heading to the Roval. We are heading to the Roval in Charlotte, which has apparently been reconfigured a little bit. We got a new chicane on the front stretch, a little bit different. And the infield portion of the course has changed a little bit too. So perhaps all of the data from previous years isn't as relevant as it normally would be. But we are going to pick in the following order: Korey, and then me, and then Donnie. Since Donnie's not here, he gave us his pick earlier.
We pick for him. His pick, we're getting out of the way first, is Harrison Burton.
It's Cody Ware. I thought we said Cody Ware.
Oh, right, Cody Ware. Oh,
he picked a guy who's not running this week. So, Korey, you get to go pick. You get to pick first. I feel like I'm not going to like where this goes.
All right. Well, I am taking a guy who's kind of on a hot streak. I hate to say it, but I'm taking Ryan Blaney's best friend, Alex Bowman.
They're
Don't cry, buddy.
They're bump draft buddies.
Yeah.
Okay, that leaves me with second pick, which, to be fair, I wanted my guy Bowman here. I've been saving him for here all playoffs, but it's all right. I will take the one Toyota driver that I have a little bit of confidence in right now, who races quite well at these places, Christopher Bell. Bell. He was my pick for Final Four at the very beginning of the year. Actually, he was my pick for championship at the very beginning of the year, so yeah, he could still luck into that. And
I could see him in the Final Four.
Yeah. And Donnie's pick was
Johnston, Mr. Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick, all right.
Sticking with the Toyotas.
He can have them.
Yep.
All right, well, I guess that is basically what we got for this week. Hopefully we'll be back to our full host situation next week. Hopefully we can be full host and get the episode recorded and get it released. I feel like the last couple of weeks, the last couple months, I should say, have been a bit of a letdown for us. Sorry about that for you guys as well.
Months. I don't know if it's been months.
Well, yeah, we lost that episode back end of August.
No, well, I think you're being a little hard on yourself, but okay.
No, it was end of August that we lost the episode, that the audio was wonky and we couldn't re-record.
Okay.
The episode after Ben Rhodes, remember? And then we had last week's where we weren't able to record, and then we have this week where we're shorter guys. So we are trying to get the train right. It's just it's been a stretch, but thank you guys nonetheless for always tuning in, always being supportive. Make sure if you're not subscribed that you do hit that subscribe button. We do post most weeks, and we've only got 5 episodes left this year, maybe 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we do only have 5 left.
I think 5.
That's crazy. Wow. Anyway,
I'm not gonna go like 4 whole months without talking to you.
It ain't 4 months, buddy. Middle of November to middle of February. It's 2. So, all right, we'll catch you guys next week.
See ya.